Come along, I don't have all day. So anyway, a few years ago, this is how I started the BMW 5 Series review, BMW. And today, a Hyundai Tucson can do the same. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss new car reviews. If all you want to know is why, this system allows you to maneuver out of a tight parking space. I like to park as far away from everyone as possible, but often when I return I find the car surrounded by people with strong herd instinct. And some of them like to park so close it's difficult to get into my car. This is where the remote parking comes in handy. In order to launch the system, you have to reconfirm that the car is locked and then hold the button on the bottom of the remote, which appropriately says hold. After a few seconds, hopefully. This is a problem with live demos. The car will start. Notice I said the car will start, not the engine will start, because sometimes it's enough to use the electric motor in the hybrid car. So anyway, once the car is started, you just use buttons front and back to move the car out of this tight parking spot. And yeah, you're good to go. Now, in the BMW, you had to use two hands, one to hold the, let's say, emergency trigger, and another one to move an arrow on a touch screen, which was ridiculous. Here, it's enough to hold one button, and off you go. And of course, a BMW these days can reverse the last 50 meters along its tracks, but still, Hyundai is aiming really high with the Tucson. See, now the petrol engine kicked in. Come on, get back here. Thank you. Nice car.
New design of the Korean SUV is polarizing. Sharp lines, numerous creases, day-running lights like angel wings. Hyundai calls its new design language Sensuous Sportiness. And the lights, the grille, as well as the bumpers are parametric, meaning they're made up of similar geometric shapes. I've heard various comparisons regarding who's Hyundai copying. In my third-generation Tucson review, I said it reminds me of the BMW X3. If I had to compare the fourth generation to another car, I'd say it looks like the Lexus NX. The Lexus NX is a bit longer than the Tucson, but that's mainly due to longer front overhang. Other dimensions are very similar. And speaking of similar dimensions, the new Tucson is almost the same size as the previous generation.
So, what's changed besides the looks? The automatic tailgate still works the same. You have to approach the car locked with the key on you, and it takes ages for it to work, and it doesn't work once the car is open. I mean, what's wrong with gesture control, right?
The boot magically expanded by about 100 liters to more than 600. I measured it, and it seems Hyundai is now taking into account the spare wheel well. The hybrid model doesn't get a spare wheel, and the mild hybrid or diesel cars may, in some markets, get a mini spare. On the plus side, I can drop the floor, or I can store the boot cover under the floor. There is a 12-volt socket as well as levers to fold the rear seats. With the seats down, boot volume expands to almost 1800 liters. Negatives. The only shopping bag hook that was once on the back of the seats disappeared. There is no gesture control to close the tailgate, and there is no automatic locking of the car with the tailgate. The doors cover the sills, finally. You can adjust the backrest tilt. The backrest splits 40-20-40. In the previous generation there was only an armrest with cup holders in the middle, but there was no pass-through to the boot. There are window shades and places for bottles in the door bins. There are air vents in the middle with third zone climate control in this model. Underneath are two USB ports. Isofix mounting points are on side seats. These seats are also heated. Legroom and headroom are more or less the same as in the previous generation model, but the black upholstery makes the interior feel smaller.
The new stuff is in the front. So gone are the scratchy plastics and gone is the analog instrument cluster. Instead, we have this digital panel which is nicely integrated into the dashboard, as is the waterfall, I'm not making it up, panel in the center console featuring the infotainment system and HVAC controls. It's a dust and fingerprint magnet, but at first glance the new Tucson interior screams money.
The steering wheel is heated, the seats are heated and ventilated. However, the electric seat memory function doesn't include mirror settings. It's a dumb cost-saving measure that may go unnoticed during a test drive. Storage under the armrest is average, just like the glove box. Door pockets, like in the Hyundai Santa Fe, could be bigger. After all, this is a family car. There is a smartphone cubby with wireless charging and cooling for the phone. Next to it are two USB ports and a 12-volt socket. Two cup holders are next to the gear selector buttons, more about that in a second. There's a lot of piano black. A couple of days earlier I drove a different Tucson and plastics around the armrest were already scratched, probably by buttons on someone's jacket. Now, the buttons as the gear selector are pure evil. I don't mind levers in strange places, I don't mind rotary dials, but the buttons are the worst. Why? Because even simple back and forth maneuvers are simpler when you move your hand, front and back or left and right. Here, every time I have to look at the buttons and I press the wrong one anyway. On the plus side, there is a large display and the infotainment system is simple to use. That being said, I suppose you won't bother using it much when you have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's cool that Hyundai makes use of free real estate on the screen for things like radio or weather information.
The new Hyundai Tucson is not all about new design, but also new engines. Depending on the market, there are several versions of the 1.6 diesel with different power outputs, mild hybrid, all of them, and 2 or 4-wheel drive.
There are also 1.6 petrol engines with mild hybrid or without, with 150 or 180 horsepower. The mild hybrid cars are with 7-speed DCT, 2 or 4-wheel drive, while the non-hybrid version is front-wheel drive and there is a manual transmission. The hybrid models have 230 horsepower, 2 or 4-wheel drive, and there is also a 265 horsepower PHEV with all-wheel drive.
This is the all-wheel drive hybrid petrol model, so I decided to test out its off-road prowess. Nothing drastic, as the Hyundai Tucson's ground clearance is only 17 centimeters, among the lowest in the class. For comparison, Toyota RAV4 has 19.5 centimeters and VW Tiguan has 20 centimeters. Volvo XC40 has 21 centimeters ground clearance.
However, that was enough to get me over this small crest. I bottomed out in this very place in the Mercedes-Benz GLA, which has less than 16 centimeters ground clearance. I drove most of the course in electric and I forgot to use the snow, mud and sand modes. The Tucson coped well enough and the petrol engine kicked in only on top of the hill when the rear wheels engaged for a moment.
I also drove the front-wheel drive mild hybrid for a couple of days. If you don't do a lot of road trips, get the full hybrid. In the city, you'll easily get about 5 liters per 100 kilometers. I got similar results in the Toyota RAV4 hybrid.
Motorway driving is not for the hybrid though. At around 120 kilometers per hour, you'll get about 9 liters per 100 kilometers. I got similar results in the Kia Sorento, but on roads with speed limit up to 90 km per hour, fuel economy is much more reasonable.
I did about 400 kilometers road trip in the new Tucson and my back was killing me. Lumbar support adjustment is insufficient, in my opinion, and the seats are too short, something I remember from the first Tucson as well.
Also, the headlights are pathetic. Higher trim models get LED headlights, but the manual headlight level adjustment is a dead giveaway. The headlights are weak. Just use automatic high beams. They work well enough, and only once someone flashed lights at me before the car turned from high to low beams.
Soundproofing is decent and the suspension is good enough on single bumps. However, I have this stretch of road which is not perfect, to say the least, and over there I can feel the suspension is working overtime. Otherwise, in everyday use, it's okay.
Visibility back and to the sides is okay, but the A-pillar and the side mirror is where pedestrians lurk, so be careful. Parking is easy thanks to a 360 camera. You can also get an optional park assist. Other driver aids work well enough, but beep too much.
My favorite driving aid is the blind spot monitor, which displays the view from cameras under the wing mirrors when you turn on the indicator, so you can clearly see any vehicles that are in your blind spot. Very good, very useful.
Hyundai promises 0 to 100 km/h time of 8.3 seconds for the all-wheel drive model and 80 to 120 km/h in 5.7 seconds. I checked and I got 7.6 and 5.2 seconds respectively, so it's considerably better than what it says in the brochure. Prices of the 4th generation Hyundai Tucson start at €26,800 for the front-wheel drive manual non-hybrid model. The cheapest mild hybrid will set you back €30,500 for the petrol, and the cheapest diesel is €31,600. This top trim car with all-wheel drive and a hybrid powertrain costs about €46,000.
The 4th generation Hyundai Tucson is still a very proper, well-designed car, but this time it also turns heads. This is no longer a race against Volkswagen. Hyundai is after Lexus. And what do you think about the new Tucson? Would you consider one instead of a Lexus? Let me know in the comment section below.
If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time. And don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.